I have recently played top lane to diamond, and today's video is going to be me explaining what I learned from playing top lane to diamond. So the first thing is that in champion select, it's important to have counter pick on top lane. So what that means is that you would like to ask if you can late pick or try and swap so that you can get late pick, simply due to the fact that jungle will not get a lot of attention throughout the game. So that means that if you have an easy matchup or a winning matchup, then that is quite good, because you're most likely going to spend a lot of time in a 1v1 on the side lane, which you're then automatically going to win. And vice versa, you don't want to be the top laner who is permanently struggling and needs constant help due to the fact that your lane is not that impactful. So try and get counter pick on blue side and red side, and try and understand the different matchups so that you can get a matchup that's not terrible for you. The second thing is that it's very important to then understand the top lane matchups. So you want to understand how do you want to play the early game, so level 1, 2, and 3, but also level 6, also on power spikes such as Mythic, stuff like that. It's very important that you know these things, because this can basically be game changing when it comes to playing top lane. Then we have to go into mental, because League of Legends is a lot about mental. So what you have to understand when you are playing top lane is that you will have very low impact on the game overall. And the first impact you're going to have on the map is most likely going to be Rift Herald, which spawns at minute 8. And a lot of the time, a lot of shit is happening before minute 8 into the game. And you just need to understand that you don't have impact or influence over those plays. The next thing you need to understand is that you will get little to no jungle attention whatsoever throughout the game. And this doesn't matter if you're playing weak side or strong side. The game is basically designed in this current meta that it is most of the time better to play through bot lane instead of top lane. The only reason why people should be playing for top lane instead is if top lane is omega stomping on the other side of the map. Now let's get into the game. So level 1. People need to understand that junglers no longer need leash because of the new jungle item, except if it's a very weak jungler such as qiyana or sylas. In that case, you still want to leash. So what you're going to do, if basically just tell your jungler that you don't need to leash them. Hopefully they listen. Some junglers will probably not understand it, but it is what it is. But now that you don't have to leash, what do you want to do? Well, you want to try and cheese level 1 if you're stronger level 1 in here, in case that the enemy is leashing and walking into lane, and then you can go just for as little as just doing 50 to 100 damage with a combo, or it could potentially be an all-in from the get-go in either Tribush or the River Bush. A good example of this is when I play Olaf in top lane. And the other thing that you can then do is that if you know that you're stronger 2v2, well, then you can simply late invade. And typically what I do is I stand here until 125. And this is something that I've done both as jungle and as top lane now. You stand here 125 and then you simply invade if you have the stronger level 1. Then let's talk about jungle interaction, because this is important. Even though that you will get little to no jungle interaction, it's important that whenever you do get attention, both from your jungler and the enemy jungler, that you set them up properly. So the first thing is that pay attention to where does the enemy jungler start. If they're starting on bot side, it most likely means that they're pathing up, and if they're starting on top side, it most likely means that they're pathing down. Quite simple. And how do you pay attention to it? Well, sometimes it can be a ward, or you just pay attention to who is leashing on the side lane and who doesn't. Then what you want to do is you want to understand, is it going to be a 3 camp into gank, 4 camp into cover, 5 camp into cover or gank, or 6 camp into full clear? These are the different things that junglers can do. So an example, Elise is very good level 3 ganker. 4 camp into cover depends on the situation. Most of the time that will be done on bot lane and not in top lane. but there are situations where this can happen. 5 camp will be either if laners have a really bad wave state, then junglers will intentionally skip a camp in order to punish the laners for not having a good wave. Or if they simply have very, very slow clearing, but most junglers are now capable of full clearing. And then this one is just the full clear, where after this they're going to gank if they can, which shouldn't happen. Or they're just going to the closest scuttle crab, and then after that they will base or look for gank. So now that you have these 4 different things that junglers can do in mind, you need to now understand the wave states and make sure that your wave is in a situation where it's either slowly pushing into you or simply freezing, or it's basically crashed and is going to bounce back. You don't want the wave to be slow pushing towards the enemy, basically, because then the enemy jungler can simply come top and punish you for having a bad wave state. And the same thing goes for ward timers. Now, a tip that is especially important for the blue side, so this side right here, is that this plant right here spawns at 525. So if you are playing against junglers that don't have a short dash, or a short cooldown dash, I should say, such as Nidalee, Graves, Lee Sin, whatever, you can simply put the ward either here outside the bush to make sure that you have vision this entire way, or you can simply put it down here if you're on the blue side, because you know that the enemy jungler is not going to gank you through here, right? If they do have a dash that is on short cooldown, then just put it on the edge down here at the bush. I see a lot of top laners putting it here, which is very bad because it's going to give you information 1 to 2 seconds later, and those 1 to 2 seconds might mean that you end up dying. The next thing is then you want to pay attention to how is your jungler interacting, because if he starts on bot side, that means that he's pathing towards top, and that means that you want the wave to either be slowly pushing towards you so the jungler can punish, or crashed into the wave, but then you want the enemy to be low HP so that you can actually dive. Otherwise, you're just wasting your own time and your jungler's time, and yeah, that can be quite bad. Then some top laners will be asking, well, when should I go TP and when should I go Ignite? And it's quite simple in my opinion. This is quite simplified. If you are higher elo, then I think there are more to it than just this, but for diamond and lower, it's simply if you have kill pressure with Ignite, you should go Ignite. If you don't have it, you should just go TP. And then we come to team play. As we talked about, the first team play that you're going to do will be around Herald, which is at minute 8. But depending on what elo and what champions are in the game, Rift Herald will sometimes be delayed to 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And when I've coached people, even 15 and 16 minutes for whatever. And those will typically be when you have impact on the map. And when it then comes to TP, your TPs will mostly just be used to lane until minute 14, when you have the empowered TP, where you can actually TP to other things than the tower. Then we get to mid game, and in mid game, all you want to do is you basically want to make sure if you want to split push or if you want to team fight. So split push is basically if you are capable of being stronger on the side lane, either on top or bot, against the enemy laners, and if you're feeling safe from being potentially ganked. So don't split push if you're playing a top laner with little to no mobility, who is weak on the side lane, because then you will just get killed over and over again on the side lane. And on the other hand, if you are a strong team fighting champion, then you should look to team fight, and a good example of this would be Malphite. Then what you want to do is you want to pay attention to TP timers, because if you play Ignite and enemy has TP, well, that means that the enemy has the upper hand, because they can defend for a wave and then TP to make a 5v4 on the other side of the map, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And same thing goes for you. If you have TP and the enemy doesn't, well, then you know that you can potentially threaten on one side and then be able to also TP to the other side and then threaten a potential team fight over there. And then we come to team fights, which are for most elos game defined. So most of the time it will be top laners that will be the engaged champions. There are exceptions where it can be jungle or support, even AD carry if you're playing Ashe or whatever, and even mid lane if you play Galio. But most of the time it's top lane. If not top lane, then it's jungle or support with like Sejuani and Alistar and whatever, right? But basically you want to be looking for engages most of the time. You'll be looking for flanks, and you'll be looking for TP flanks. So you want to make sure that you're not afraid to die, because somebody has to die in order to win a team fight most of the time. And typically it's best if it's the top laner or the tank engaged champion who dies for it. So don't be behind your carries or afraid to go in if you're actually capable of team fighting. But the one thing that you want to make sure is that you are actually capable of team fighting. So check if people have their summoners up, check if people have their ultis up, check the positioning of your teammates and also the enemy team's positioning. So make sure that you are roughly same amount of gold or pulse spikes, or that you have summoners advantage, ultis advantage, some type of advantage will make team fighting so much easier. So you want to keep track of as many things as possible. And if you then have an advantage, well, then you can look for engage. And if you don't have an advantage, maybe you should wait with your engage. The next thing is that you want to be paying attention to where the enemy is on the map and where they were last seen. So do they have TP? Because if they have TP, they can be on the map, but still be a threat to your team. The next thing is then pay attention to jungle timers. So if a dragon or a baron is potentially going to spawn in a minute or a minute 30, even 2 minutes, sometimes it's not that good to team fight, because if you invest everything into winning a team fight, okay, that's great. But then when the jungle objective comes up, maybe you don't have the important ultis, maybe you don't have the important items, maybe you don't have the important summoner spells, and then you can't team fight on an objective, but you might think that you can fight because you won the last team fight, and then you lose that important team fight and you lose the objective. So keep in mind, if it's 1 minute, 1:30, 2 minutes to an objective spawning, maybe not the right time to go in. And last but not least, all of these games that I played were played between Platinum 1. So here, Platinum 1 is Enemy Nivea, and the highest was Diamond 1, which was Akalia did. Actually, was she Master Cyril P? She might have been Master Cyril P. But yeah, that were basically the elo that I was playing in. I hoped that these tips will help top laners or side laners, TP players, flank players, or yeah, engaged teamfighting players to become better at the game. And I'm still offering coaching, and I have been coaching top laners a little bit more. And I have even been coached by top laners myself in order to get better at top lane, understanding and executing it. So yeah, there's that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to leave a like. If you have any questions, leave in the comment section down below. Otherwise, subscribe. See you guys.